Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, I want you to imagine something. Your company gets robbed, the main suspect goes to court and is found not guilty. But then your insurance company turns around and says, sorry, we're not paying a dime. Sounds crazy, right? Well, today we're diving into a real-life case that shows exactly why not guilty doesn't always mean what you think it does.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, it seems like pure logic. The person accused of the crime is acquitted, so the insurance company should pay the claim. But here's the thing. In the world of law and insurance, the obvious answer is almost never the whole story. So let me tell you about a pharmaceutical company called Candor Biotech. Their story starts with a huge burglary, which, as you'd expect, kicks off a police investigation. But it ends with something they never saw coming. Their insurance company flat out refusing to pay.
All right, so picture this. The year is 2007. Someone breaks into Candor Biotech's factory and makes off with about 10 lakhs worth of materials and parts. It's a big hit, but hey, that's what insurance is for, right? They had a pretty beefy 3.5 crore policy with Oriental Insurance. So they filed their claim, probably thinking it would be a routine payout. But this is where the story takes its first major turn. The insurance company came back with a big nope. They pointed to a little piece of fine print, an exclusion clause to be exact. And this clause said they didn't have to cover any losses if one of the company's own employees was involved in the crime. What followed was not some quick negotiation. Oh no, this kicked off an absolute marathon of a legal battle. We're talking a 17-year slugfest that worked its way through every single level of India's consumer court system. So the police start their investigation, and pretty quickly, their eyes land on one of the company's own security guards. For the insurance company, that suspicion was all they needed to deny the claim. What happened next was this incredible legal tug-of-war that just went on for years. One court would side with the company, then another would side with the insurer. It just went back and forth, all the way to the top, the Supreme Court of India. And when this whole 17-year mess finally lands on the Supreme Court's desk, they don't just pick a winner and end it. Nope. Instead, they send the case all the way back down the ladder with one single crucial question that would finally decide everything. Okay, you have to lean in for this part because this is where it gets really juicy. The entire case, all 17 years of fighting, was about to come down to the definition of just two little words. So the Supreme Court's order was super specific. They basically said, hey, National Commission, take another look at this. But this time, we want you to focus on this one thing, the Honourable Acquittal of the security guard, Gulab Singh. They wanted to know what effect that specific kind of acquittal had on the insurance policy. And that probably has you wondering, just like I was, what on earth is an honourable acquittal? I mean, we all know guilty or not guilty. Where does this honourable part come from? And why is it so important?
To really get this, we need to understand a core idea in law, and it's a big one. In the eyes of a court, not all acquittals are the same. They just aren't created equal. Yeah, you're not going to find the term honorable acquittal in some dusty old law book. It's a concept that judges themselves have shaped over the years, and it means something really profound. It doesn't just mean the prosecution couldn't prove their case. It means they miserably failed. This isn't just not guilty, it's the court basically saying, this person is completely 100% blameless. And this, right here, is where the whole case cracks wide open. See, on one side you have an honorable acquittal, which is like a total clean slate, a declaration of innocence. But on the other side you have an acquittal based on the benefit of the doubt, and that's totally different. That just means the prosecution couldn't quite get over the finish line. It doesn't mean the person is innocent, it just means they're not legally guilty. And that leaves the door wide open for suspicion. So why does this distinction matter so much? Well, it's because the criminal court and the civil court are playing two completely different games, with two different sets of rules. To convict someone in a criminal case, the prosecution has to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Think of that like having to clear a 10-foot-high wall. It's a really high bar. But for an insurance company in a civil or consumer case, all they need is a preponderance of probabilities. They just have to show that it's more likely than not that their side of the story is true. That's not a 10-foot wall, it's just needing to win a coin toss, a little over 50%. Okay, so we've got all the puzzle pieces on the table now. Let's snap them together and see what the final picture looks like. How the court finally solved this 17-year-old insurance mystery. judge literally wrote that even though there was grave suspicion about the guard, suspicion alone just isn't legal proof in a criminal case. So he gave the accused the benefit of the doubt. He wasn't declared innocent. He just got off because the case wasn't airtight. And that one little phrase, benefit of the doubt, was the key that unlocked everything for the insurance company. Here's how the commission connected the dots. First, the guard's acquittal wasn't a declaration of innocence. Second, because of that, it definitely wasn't an honorable acquittal. Third, that means the suspicion of his involvement was still on the table. And finally, for the insurance company, who only had to win that 51% coin toss, that suspicion was more than enough to trigger the exclusion clause in the policy. And so, on March 18th, 2025, after 17 long years, the final verdict came down. The National Commission sided with the insurance company. Candor Biotech's claim was officially and finally denied for good. So what's the big lesson here? If there's one thing you walk away with from this entire saga, let it be this. A not guilty verdict from a criminal court might feel like the end of the story, but it doesn't automatically win you a related civil case. The criminal and civil justice systems are like two parallel universes. They operate with their own rules and, most importantly, completely different standards of proof. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Knowing that you can be not guilty in one court, but still be considered involved enough for a civil penalty, does that change how you think about what legal innocence really means? And, maybe a little more practically, does it make you want to go dig up your own insurance policy and read some of that fine print?